Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Chaffee with a line through his head. It's a Tuesday. Hope everybody's having a great start to your day. And we've got a little bit of severe weather going on here in my neck of the woods with at least the threat of a marginal risk of severe weather. We have a very, very cold upper trough that's moving through here. And with the strong June sun and a very unstable atmosphere, it could produce some scattered downpours or some thunderstorms. And sometimes in these cold environments like this, when you have an unstable atmosphere that's very cold all the way up, you can get some very nasty isolated thunderstorms. They don't, the tops of those thunderstorms don't go particularly high, but they can even produce some hail. I would not, and gusty winds. I would not at all be surprised. And then severe weather, perhaps of the more traditional variety. We have an enhanced risk today in central and eastern Nebraska, a larger area of slight risk that goes from northwest Kansas through most of Nebraska, western Iowa, and into South Dakota, and then that even larger area of marginal risk that extends further north and slightly further south from there, along with, of course, your general area of thunderstorms. So let's see what's going on the satellite loop. And here's the upper trough. You can see it right here, this spinning little vortex that's moving along to the east, and it's got these uh, kind of spokes on a bicycle wheel rotating around it. We had actually one go through this morning. I was a little surprised. We had some downpours that went through this morning in some areas, and I would not at all be surprised to see some other scattered thunderstorms develop later on during the afternoon. But once that goes by, you got this next shot of dry, cool air that's going to be coming in for tonight and Wednesday, bringing with it a continuation of this low humidity and sunshine. We're actually quite cool today. It's here we are almost at late morning, and we're only in the upper 60s and low 70s, and we're not going to get out of the 70s today at all. And here's some of the action that's moving in across Montana and Wyoming. It's going to be the trigger mechanism for some of the severe weather later today into tonight in parts of the central and the northern plains. In the meantime, we'll look out in the west, and you can see the morning low clouds here creeping down the California coast. It's really interesting how that happens. You see it right there. That's all the fog developing from San Francisco down to Los Angeles, and then once we get past sunrise there on the west coast, that fog bank will, of course, retreat. Otherwise, inland, it looks like a pretty decent day, although we even have some patchy low clouds and fog going on there. And right down here, by the way, is the top of Hurricane Dora, which I'll show you in a second. And we'll look at the water vapor imagery, just a quick check of the tropics. You can see, tropical waves basically south of 10 degrees north, so still, pretty far to the south, but not unusual for late June. A lot of dry air showing up across the tropics. This is a water vapor image loop. Actually shows the water vapor moisture all the way up in the atmosphere, so you get to see a bit of a different look at how these systems react and function. And we've got these two big upper air storms sitting out in the Atlantic here. They really dominate the flow and create strong wind shear conditions, all this responsible for all this dry air. It's rather moist across the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico, but we don't have any kind of wave action or development that's expected in that region. And here is Hurricane Dora. The eye still pretty well defined there, starting to fill in a little bit as it continues its track to the west-northwest and gradually moves over colder water. You're going to see this thing fall apart and go to the Pacific graveyard that these West Coast systems usually wind up doing. So moving along, I want to jump to the HRRR model for today. And you can see these little pockets here later this afternoon. This is at 2 p.m. You see these little dots of isolated showers and thunderstorms that develop that last through the evening. And again, any one of those cells could possibly become a bit on the nasty side. So I wouldn't be at all surprised. And also there'll be areas that, won't see them. They're going to be scattered. And then once that's done, we're going to see improving weather conditions, and we'll go into the middle and latter part of the week where we'll begin a bit of a change. And I'll put the whole U.S. view up. So we can take a look at that. So here's your severe weather outbreak for late this evening and tonight across the central and northern plains. You've got this next high that builds in here into the east. The west coast is having its typical summer type of setup. And then this next high quickly goes off the mid-Atlantic coast. So beginning on Thursday, we're going to start to turn warmer here. I don't think Thursday will be particularly humid. Friday probably will be, and we will see temperatures approach 90 degrees. There's a west wind, pretty much westerly isobars. That's going to keep the sea breeze out for a lot of coastal areas. And, the main frontal zone is set up well to the north. So you've got all the ingredients here for some very warm air. Also, hot in the usual spots out in the west with the wind coming east from the Rockies and down toward the west coast, which is, again, also typical summertime. Now, going into the weekend, I think we're going to have chances for showers and thunderstorms late in the day on Friday, late in the day on Saturday, and then again on Sunday. Maybe Sunday might afford the best chance, but, the GFS last night wants to rush this front through here by late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, in which case it may not be that bad on Sunday. Looks like it might turn a little bit less humid. And then we'll have another frontal system approaching right in time for the 4th of July to bring a threat for showers and thunderstorms into the northeast. And actually, it actually tries to show a little wave going by to our south. So you wonder whether that might mean more than just, some scattered activity, but it could very well mean that that if this is correct, I'm not saying it is, but you wind up with more of an onshore flow. It's not going to make for the nicest of days across much of the northeast from New Jersey on northward. But we'll have to see on that. And we're at the point now. We're going into July, so we're going to just kind of be in this mode where we're going to have these, weather systems are going to be on the weak side in terms of their reflection in the atmosphere. We're not going to see any big wholesale storm systems, obviously. So unless something were to bubble up in the tropics, it's cold fronts and whatever they produce. And by the end of next week, another cold front comes through with another high coming down from the north, although it does want to set itself up across the Great Lakes in New England with a bit of an onshore flow. But who knows? At this point, this is pretty far onto the game. It's for deep into the long range. So we start to get a little squirrely with that sort of stuff. And just a quick check of the upper air today, and we'll take a look at that. We'll roll back here. We'll show you that deep trough here in the east. This is the last one in a series of troughs that's been swinging around into the eastern part of the United States. So we are going to get a bit of a break here in terms of the depth of these troughs. It's a pretty deep trough with a very, very strong upper low that's sitting in northeastern Canada, trough into the west, ridge up in the Rockies, and that trough, you can see that lifts out. You get a bit of a ridge that develops in the eastern part of the United States, but nothing particularly strong. It just kind of puts us on the edge of the hot, humid air. Then the next short wave right there begins to drop down and swing around. Nothing like what we're seeing today. So the magnitude of the cooler air behind it is not nearly as strong. But there's still a sense of general troughing here in the east through much of next week. So we're going to have to be careful with that in terms of how it plays out in the forecast. Now, later next week, you get this east-west ridge that tries to build, okay? And let me just get that marker there. Okay, so you can see this east-west upper high kind of dominates the entire area south of 30 degrees north. And there's your shortwave troughs to the north. Now, depending on how these highs bulge up to the north, are going to determine the extent of any heat that develops. And out in the Rockies, you get a big upper high that's closing off here. So there might be the beginnings of a heat wave later next week into next weekend in the western half of the United States. This is a pretty strong upper ridge that's developing here. And of course, if that's the case, it's going to favor troughs to drop into the east. So that will keep the east from getting too hot for too long, particularly the northern mid-Atlantic and northeast specifically. The South is a whole different story, but looks like the ridge wants to set up in the Western Plains and Rockies, so that's going to probably keep the intense heat here in this part of the U.S. and less so in the East. Although I would imagine conditions will be warm and humid more often than not, with little intrusions of slightly less humid air in between, depending on how these weather fronts set up. So for now, the tropics are asleep. We don't have too much to look at from that respect. So watch for some of those scattered thunderstorms today and have a great day. Thank you for subscribing to my YouTube channel. New subscribers or new visitors, just hit the subscribe button and you'll get notifications when new videos come on. It's absolutely free to subscribe. And I do enjoy when you participate in the conversation. And this way, by the way, at least when the weather is slow, you can watch these videos and get a good feel for my style. When we get into some severe weather and we get into deeper into tropical storm season, I think you'll have a blast with some of the stuff that I put on. And of course, you can check out latest website posts on meteorologistjoechaffee.com, and Angry Ben has New York City covered on nycweathernow.com. Have a great day.